On the course of discovery and exploration, every researcher discovers things that they were unexpected. In the course of my investigation and research into my own experiences with a being identifying herself to me simply by the name Beniko, I found that through my investigation, that my life was being directly impacted by my connection. There's that magic word. Connection is simply a word, as I've heard people use they kind of go into this little monologue about what it means. What's important, and I agree with the writers of some of these shows that have come out. I like that analogy. It's connection is simply a word. It's what it implies that's most important. The trick is exactly where is the connection, where does it rest? As I said before, in the higher dimensions, it doesn't exist, because there wouldn't be a need to. Now that's a bit difficult for some people to get their head around. Only in the third dimension would we be concerned and obsessed with such ideas of love, connection, bonding, and the suggestion being, the antonym being no bonding, or disconnection. In this reality, in the third dimensional plane, in this galaxy, in this universe, when you say the third dimension, people say stupid things like, you're very earthly grounded. Again, this is a very lay person's idea, limited, slice perception of what that actually means in the sense of physics and geometry. When we talk about higher dimensions, we aren't just speaking of dimensions that surround the Earth, or the Earth is the third dimension. The Earth is one tiny grain of sand in this giant galaxy. And there are many, many galaxies, and all of which reside within what we will call the third dimension. So it's quite vast. So bear that in mind, please. Have some respect. Third dimension on its own is not some earthly thing. Again, that's a New Age thinking of this idea of spiritology, that earthly grounded within the antonym would be something above, out there in the heavens, and out there, as if something out there in space and the universe itself is somehow divine and above. So getting away from all the New Age spiritual thinking about the third dimension. The third dimension is simply a dimension of space-time, height, width, breadth, and length, and this dimension encompasses one of time, so that you can have existence, duration. So I'm going to remove the idea, and some have said this and postulated this in theories and hypotheses, that time is the fourth dimension. It's not the fourth dimension. That's nonsense. Time is not a fourth dimension any more than a fifth dimension. Remember, dimensions are simply spatial spaces. A fourth dimension is simply a direction you can't point into, because it's a dimension that is beyond our dimension, and we ourselves are third dimensional beings. We can't help but be third dimensional in how we are, because we are third dimensional. Now, fourth dimensional, fifth dimensional is in higher space as you perceive it. Beings living in these higher dimensions would look upon us with curiosity, as we can look at a two-dimensional square in a piece of paper and see inside the square, in front of the square, and behind the square at the same time. But a fourth dimensional person living in the fourth dimension would be able to see inside of you and me, your death and your birth, your past, your future, all at the same time. It wouldn't really make any difference. That's not a big deal. And if this fourth dimensional person were to speak to you about the future, you would think they were some great divine psychic. In fact, they're simply only doing what they know to do, what they can see with their eyes. Beniko exists in this higher dimension by some device of their technology, and they can enter into our dimension and appear as what you call UFOs. Having a contact and intimate contact with a being in such a higher dimension comes with ramifications. The following account is one of them. The Mandela Effect gets its name from a lady who long ago believed that Nelson Mandela, the South African leader, died in the 1980s, and she remembered his funeral on TV, and other people remembered the same thing. So then it got coined the nickname the Mandela Effect. Now, in fact, Nelson Mandela died in recent years in the 21st century. Well, then other people began to notice other things going on that were different. And it began to get blamed on CERN, Large Hadron Collider, that perhaps some people are being moved through something called parallel Earth realities. A parallel Earth, it is believed, exists alongside the same time right now of this Earth, but there are going to be each Earth, like a giant honeycomb, each coinciding, connecting parallel Earth of the same time in 2019 is connected, but it is slightly different from the one next to it. Perhaps in the one next to it, just slight differences, I don't have a beard. Or perhaps other things have happened. Perhaps I live in a house instead of here. There's lots and lots of things that come up in this. Rather than cats, I own dogs, or I don't own anything. So I have said in my videos that there is a possibility that does exist, that the Mandela Effect affects people who are somehow in contact with extraterrestrial intelligences that are in fact visiting this planet and are here. Now, it seems to be a very subjective opinion for some in the scientific community to say that they act as if this is a matter for opinion. Do you think that aliens are here? Well, my opinion is no one's come here because of the vast distances. But the evidence is there and can be examined. Even I have provided evidence of the existence of somebody, of an entity that you may have heard in my previous videos. The female voice that you hear speaking is that of Beniko. Now, I can obtain that evidence, as you saw scientifically, both outside where I live and where I am now. And this can be done at any time. And that was at least, more than a few videos to make the point, to state the point. Okay. Proof of concept, if you will, scientifically has been put forth. I have cut grass for a company, I won't name names, to be professional. I've been doing so for the last roughly 3 years now. Now, yes, I'm an author, researcher, but yes, like many of you, I have a day job. I don't go out and have like millions of dollars from book sales or anything like that. I sell my books, I promote my books, but I don't mix the two up and where I work. And I can work anywhere. When we look at the Mandela Effect as it applies in my situation, there is one area I have cut grass repeatedly. In the year 2017, for 14 months, I cut grass for this company through 2017 and 2018. And many times I was asked to go to a certain part of this area, of this business part, and cut the grass for them. It was a backyard, and it only had one area of grass. That was it. There was nothing else there. There was no sidewalks, no pavement, nothing. It was just thick grass. I would know. I was there many times. I know because grass standards are very important to management, and if you don't get the grass just right, you don't get it mint, you don't cut it just right, they'll let you know about it. So being a professional, I made sure that my grass standards were at the best. I would know what's in that area. I'll say again, you have to have a keen eye and you have to really look and make sure every blade of grass is level. Otherwise, they'll let you know about it. Recently, in the last few months, I went to that area and I work in that area of life again. And I happened to look. I wasn't asked to cut the grass there, but I simply looked, and to my amazement, I found a sidewalk, a footpath, that ran through that small area where the grass was. There was still grass there, but there was a sidewalk. At first, I believed the sidewalk had just been laid down, And then I noticed perhaps it looks like it's been there a long time. There's lichen. There's a mold called lichen growing on the sidewalk. Now here in England, every centimeter of lichen, I think, is a decade, 10 years, I think somebody said. 10 years of growth. And it can't be growing unless it's exposed to the air. In other words, you really can't get lichen under soil. If there's a case of that, I stand corrected. But to my knowledge, lichen will go on tombstones and bridges. Anywhere there's concrete, you'll see these green, round, circular discs. The larger they are, the older the concrete and the bricks. In other words, it's been there a long time. If it's something this size, it's at least a century. The lichen that was growing across this sidewalk indicated to me this was at least a few decades. This sidewalk has been there a long time. Was it covered over by dirt? Perhaps I just got this wrong and cut over it. No, the sidewalk was in fact professionally laid a long time ago. It is a footpath that is not shown any indication of having been covered up. I then had to note that down in my diary, that what we're dealing with here is a possibility of another Mandela effect. I never got shocked or upset or freaked out about it because as a researcher I come to expect this sort of thing. Again, further evidence of the consequences and the ramifications of the connection to Panico. An extraterrestrial human hybrid existing in a higher dimension, another reality, just outside our own. But accessible, and communication is possible, and linkage, and it can even be detected by technologies such as this device and other devices. She can speak into this dimension, if you will. You can hear her. So you can pick that up on recordings. Okay, science would say that. If such a thing is happening, then you should be able to pick it up. Just like a two-dimensional square, if it had a recording device, would be able to hear me speaking into its reality if I spoke over it. Anyways, that's my video, the Mandela Effect update. A sidewalk that was not there, that was not laid recently, is there now. Now, anyone who's a part of this company or anything like that, who doesn't understand a word of what I'm talking about, were to see this video, would say, yeah, well, the sidewalk was always there, even then. Yes, for you. But bear in mind that for me, when I was here cutting the grass for this company through 2017 and 18, there was only grass in a backyard. This isn't just some sidewalk buried halfway into the ground with some dirt and a ledge. No, it's raised. It's actually slightly a bit higher than the surrounding grass, indicating that if you were trying to push a lawnmower over this, it would tear the lawnmower to pieces. It's a sidewalk. And it's not a small sidewalk. It's actually a long sidewalk going from the fence to the back steps of this property. And again, like I said, it's been there for them for a long, long time. It's been there. I mean, for anyone here, it's been there for them. But for me, I have no recollection of that thing being there. All I know is I stumbled across this, and what catches me when I find Mandela Effect issues like this, I step back and think, wait a minute. What amazes me is how suddenly old something looks, or that it's funny, it's peculiar to me that it's like, oh look, it's like it's acting like it's always been there, as if, hey, come on. There are other small things I've caught out that things that I've said to somebody in passing, or practice, or something that's gone on, that people looked at me and said, oh no, we don't ever do that. That's never been done. Well, in fact, it has been, as I remember. I don't know. There it is. Being dragged like an anchor at the bottom of the ocean in the third dimension by a ship floating above us in a higher dimension, tethered to a line to another being, as she takes me from one reality to another.